All right, welcome. This is a rules review and maybe a little bit of illustration of the newly released game Blackhorse by Tiny Battle Publishing by Arrigo V. I won't try and pronounce the last name there. Just recently came out, shipping, etc. And it's a basically tactical game of hypothetical 1989 World War III Fulda Gap. And we do see here is the city of Fulda, all the way over here. So this is going to be an opportunity here to do a somewhat detailed rules review. We'll see how it goes. And to illustrate some of this, potentially I've got the very first, and they call it the intro scenario, set up here. We'll see that later too. Basically, it's on what we call the bolt from the blue out of the barracks, kind of surprising NATO. So the only units starting out are elements of the 11th Armored Cav Regiment. Well, we do see we've got the units screening the border here. These pluses are the border between East Germany and West Germany. And so we've got two companies, I guess. We'll see in a second. I get companies, battalions of the 11th ACR. This looks like a mixed unit of M1s and Bradleys. And then back here near Fulda is the rest of, well, a good chunk of the 11th ACR. And then reinforcements come during the game. But like I said, we're not really going to play through the scenario. We're going to look at the rules here. So we have done this in the past as I just start scrolling through the rules, talking about them, and seeing what we have here. And this is not, I mentioned in a previous video, at first I thought this was Platoon Commander again, another series by Tiny Battle, but no, this is a meaty tactical combat here of modern combat. And I can see different influences here for this game. So it is up to, when we get through it, probably 25 pages of rules. Pretty solid. 4 scenarios. Here they come is what we're playing right now. And we do see a more prepared one all the way up to the full battle here. And then some designer's notes. So just here on the first page, we look alternate history. Mikhail Gorbachev, so much for perestroika. Decides to roll the die in 88 and try one more time. We have elements in the game of the 11th Armored Cav. We'll see also 3rd Armored is available of 5 Corps and the 7th Corps. And we've got the 79th Guards tank, part of the 8th Guards Army, group of Soviet forces. So this is a chunk of the battle. My guess is this system will probably, if it's successful, have other battles coming. Tiny battle, so we got 111 by 17 map. That's pretty manageable here. 352 counters. 2 formation status cards, which we can see here. And we use those, a lot of units, independent, well, units with the US side, and then we've got a command track. This is kind of how you measure how busy things are getting, and the more busy they get, the more chance for snafu. And yes, there is an actual snafu track. And the Soviet formation card, here we go. And notice they, of course, their commands are regiments. And we do see 17th Guards tank, 45th Guards tank, 247th Guards mechanized rifle, and 211 tank. So that's interesting. We got 3 tank regiments, a mech, and then, of course, the 79th overall division here. And we track how busy things are going, for lack of a better word. And then assets are tracked here too. Units potentially not totally destroyed can be reorganized and come back into the battle. We can assign artillery and helicopters as needed too. You do see anti-aircraft potentially assets, be it SAMs or in the case of the Soviets, ZSUs. So, and those are assigned as assets. So let's dig it out here. Each hex is 1,000 meters. There's a turn record track up here along the top. We can see that each turn is 3 hours. Okay. Black 2 categories and markers, yeah. So we've got companies or US Cav troops with a smattering of batteries and platoons. Companies 3-step, platoons and batteries 1-step. Okay. And we do, some of the helicopter units are assigned, they're not full attack helicopter assets. Some of them appear to be assigned also to individual units, and they actually carry troops, is my guess. Here we've got the counter broken out, and pretty busy, but it does make sense. I'll pull this one up here. So the first set of numbers is your armor piercing cannon, I guess. And you do see there's a 9. I think it's partly because this unit is a mix of M1s and Bradleys, so it's not just a 25 millimeter Bradley here. So they got a 9 with a range of 3. And then the second rating, if it's present, is AT guided missiles, anti-tank guided missiles. See, the range is a little more, and the attack factor is rather large, 18. So that's your AP, your ATGM pair. And then when we move across, I'll just do it from here now. Well, this is the armor rating in the bracket, and some units do have 2 armor ratings here. Let me zoom in this way. That'll do it. So the 6 is against regular AP fire, and the 10 is a defense against anti-tank guided missile, because we've got, I believe, I forgot the name, reactive armor. And now there's actually active countermeasures, but that probably wasn't present in '89. So you do see that's a different value there. So those are the numbers along the top. And not all units have ATGM. Now the next value here is their HE fire. This is against a hex, generally soft targets. And the 6 is the value, 2 is the range. Okay. And down here at the bottom, of course, it does define its unit, 11th Armored Cav, B Company of the 11th Armored Cav. Notice if we look at the Russians here, I'm guessing this is a T-80. And range 3, attack 11, defense 5 against regular AP fire, defense 7 against ATGM fire, and you do see the HE fire also. And then every unit does have, like they said, 3 steps. There's one. If they take another step loss, they go to the reorg. But if somehow they, either take a 3-step loss here, then they're permanently eliminated. Or if there's a combat result that gives a 2-step, they're permanently eliminated. So it is possible for a unit to be permanently eliminated. But if they go through the 2, they leave the board and they go to the reorg on the formation status. And then some units don't have an extra step. HQs are kind of special. They're either in TAC mode, on the move, and this is a unique kind of headquarters unit. This is a forward security element of the 79th, but other units do have regular. Here we go. Here's, I think we're using, what are we using here? We're using 211th. Let's do their headquarters there. So we do see, though, your traditional headquarters. This is the range and their command rating. And to give the full spectrum of commands, you got to be within the range of this, command rating here. This is in tactical mode, so they can move. We're going to see this later. There's 3 modes: deployed, tactical, and march. But you can put them into deployed mode, and you notice their range goes up by 1, but their command rating is still the same. So let's see, I think I've covered it. Yeah, those are all the numbers here. We do have artillery units. They're normally off board, and I think I can actually give an example of that. I can't necessarily zoom this, but we do see the ACR does have 1 artillery battery available. They can't use them on the first turn, apparently. 6 is generally their HE value. 4, if they're on the board, is their armored value. Let's look at the Soviets. Yeah, the Soviets do have 2 units here. So we do see, and they've even got direct fire. Some artillery units can do direct fire, so we're seeing that they have an 8-1 value also. But in general, their artillery value is range 6, and then attack factor HE 8. And the AP attack is against a specific unit. We'll see. You got to pick a unit if there's more than 1 unit in the hex. But HE potentially affects the whole hex, In general, soft targets, but off-board artillery can affect hard targets, which of course are your vehicles, and they can also disrupt either way. And then finally, we do have our anti-aircraft Stingers for the U.S., and then the Russians have, here's your ZSU right here, and they have an AA range with a blue value and then the attack value. But the ZSU can also do other things here. So I think that's covered it. There we go. We've got our artillery, got our HQs, etc. Let's see. Mechanized infantry units behave as a vehicle while in march or tactical mode, but they act as an infantry soft target in deployed mode. And that's going to be interesting to determine when units are in deployed mode. It's mainly what kind of hex are they in. If they're in a road hex or a clear hex, in general they're considered in tactical. Obviously march we're going to use if we're on a road, we get better movement. But then deployed mode, that means the infantry is out of the unit. Yeah, like here, the second unit here is in the recon. It's the BMP. So that's potentially, I'll have to read the rules. They're on the road, so I guess they could be in tactical or deployed. Up to the player, okay? So I think that covers the units here. We do have some markers I mentioned. Here's your disruption. Base fire value, that's what BFV stands for. +2 on the snafu table. We'll see that in a second. Smoke we can have also. Causes -4 DRM. Let's see, maybe we can make this bigger here. Okay, there we go. You can get an ammo low situation, -2 to your base fire value. We'll see that later. When you fire your anti-tank guided missiles, in general, you only got 2 shots. Then you got to reorganize. First time you shoot, you get a low. Second time you shoot, you're out. Can't fire until there's a resupply function at the end of the turn. Except for, I think they say Soviet BMPs, which basically only have 1 shot. There's march mode marker on a road. These are improved munitions, or this is the U.S. Placing mines, I guess, fast cam. Special artillery information. Artillery can do regular artillery strikes. They can do smoke. And if the scenario allows you ICM and fast cam. This is a special anti-tank missile used by, I believe, the T-80s. So, and there's a limited number per scenario per unit. So as they're used, you can't use them anymore. And range 4, attack 12. So we'll see. I don't know if there are any in this one. No, I'll have to check the rules here. So that's a special anti-tank guided missile in some Soviet tanks. We've got rubble artillery on certain hexes, and that affects movement, defense, if you rubble a hex. And then we say how engaged is the unit as a whole. I think this is generally placed on the status card. And if you're lightly engaged, which means you've been fired upon at least by the enemy, we'll explain that later, then you're lightly engaged +2 on snafu. And if you're heavily engaged, both being fired upon and firing, or we'll unpack that, every action costs 2, not 1. So you can see heavily engaged, it kind of takes away your flexibility. Chemi fire, yes, the Soviets only if permitted by the scenario. Causes disorder of units. And then if you're out of command, there's your out of command marker. So the formation status cards, 4 colors, green, yellow, orange, red, correspond to the 4 command conditions. It just means a level of more and more engaged or busy, okay? And you can't hide yours from the other player, so that's not going to be a detriment to solo play. We can also have a spot for reorganized units. Like I said, if this guy has 2 steps, if he takes 2 steps, he goes here. But if he goes 3-step combat result or 2 steps already reduced, he's permanently eliminated. Interesting there. This is the engagement status. You place it here to track the formation's engagement status. And this is your fire support. This could be artillery, helos, or SAM, I guess you'd call it. There we go. So that's an example of that. Important concepts, yeah, armor rating, we saw that. Thick black border indicates a mech infantry unit subject to special rules on deploy, etc. And we can see that between these two units. You do see the recon unit is not thick black, but the mech unit is thick black. So we're going to see special rules. Basically, what hex they're in determines whether they're in deployed mode or tactical. Command range, effective frontage or formation units outside of that getting out of command. And basically all they're going to be able to do is movement, not adjacent to enemy units, and or reaction fire. So, like these guys are definitely out of command. The headquarters is real far away back in Fulda. So, but they will be able to do reaction fire and then potentially move to beat feet. We'll see, depending on the victory conditions. Direct and general support. Yeah, and requires a successful command check. Obviously, you're going to roll against the command effectiveness to call in artillery support, etc. Disruption is a combat result. We'll see that. Not engaged. Here we go. Engagement status. Not engaged is normal. No marker. Not firing or under fire. Lightly engaged are ones who are using their own direct fire. Direct or general support artillery does not count. Okay, artillery doesn't count for this. So if there are units, like as soon as these guys move, reaction fire, you're lightly engaged now, 11th ACR. Heavily engaged units are with at least one subordinate or attached unit being fired upon by enemy units. So reading this, if they take fire, even if they haven't fired, they're heavily engaged. Actions are double, and we did see, I think it was +2 snafu. Let's see, formations are battalions and regiments for the Soviet. And you do see the U.S. actually has a lot of battalions. 8th Cav, 8th Cav, 18th Inf. There's a punch here. 2 from the 67th Armored. And we do see 7 Cav down here, etc. And both of them do have some, here's an artillery brigade too. And all of those will have command markers and tracked here in the game, depending on who's actually in the scenario. Hard targets, all non-HQ vehicle units in the game. Non-HQ vehicle units, including helos, mech infantry, and march or tactical mode while in clear or Autobahn. And that's key, not road. See, we'll look at this. Autobahn, we'll see the terrain effect chart later, is here's an Autobahn. 2 lanes right there. That's an Autobahn. This is just a secondary road. Actually, we can look at that. Let's look at the terrain effects chart here. There it is. Okay, so we do see the Autobahn has 2 lanes. And then what we call the secondary road, either one of these, has 1 lane. And the interesting thing is if you're on march mode on the Autobahn, well, you can drive forever. Okay, in 3 hours you can go pretty far at 60 kilometers or whatever per hour, we'll see, or whatever your max speed is. So those are the 2 different types of roads. We'll come back to that later. Order is a single command, and that's how the game turn goes. Whoever you roll, you determine who has the initiative, and then they can do their first order for one command. Then the other side can do an order for the other command, and then the other side, and it alternates until both pass, or they have nobody they can do it with because the headquarters get in a finished mode. We'll see. Soft targets are mech infantry units in deployed mode or in tactical mode and in a hex with an HE defense value of 1 or more. So that does determine it. So this guy's deployed right now. Because if we look at the chart, yeah, when you do fire HE, remember I said you fire against a hex. So this is the defensive values for HE, and we do see clear, you're in tactical mode. Autobahn, you're in tactical mode, but if a mech infantry unit is in a town, a village, a wooded hill, a woods, or even a hill, they're in deployed mode. That's going to be interesting to figure out here. So keep that in mind. Soviet player, we already know that. So that's a key point there about mech infantry. Are they deployed or tactical mode? And basically, they're in tactical mode and in a hex. Units in deploy mode are in tactical mode and in a hex with an HE of 1. So we'll sort that out. Stacking 4 company-sized units per hex unless somebody's in march mode. Then you're only allowed 2. Column formation, etc. We do have the superior HQs do come into play. 79th Guard. Actually, this is their forward security element. And then 3rd Armored potentially for the U.S. That's the superior HQ, which gives a benefit for initiative, etc. Unit ID, they are color-coded. We don't have a lot of units on the board right now, but you do see like this one has slightly different color, like this is red. These are kind of a pink or purple. So they do that color coding. And what's a vehicle? Tank or AFV, mech infantry unit in march mode or tac mode in a clear or Audubon hex. Also, any kind of on-map artillery unit. Okay, and they also have a vehicle icon. So here's your sequence of play. Initiative phase, roll D10, high wins, re-roll ties. Scenario may adjust that. You know, like this intro game, the Soviets have it. And +3 initiative for the rest of the game because they've surprised them. Command phase on 0600 dawn turns. They can attach and reassign their assets to different formations. And then the order phase, that's the meat of the game. Alternate in conducting order segments. And then we do review and cleanup. Recovery activity for formations, like we saw on the formation card. Reconstitute destroyed HQs. Reorganize units, we'll see that too. Clear map of administrator markers, etc. Actually, a big thing that also happens then is this can be reduced based on the command rating. So I've done a number of actions, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And orange, we're going to see on the snafu table isn't a great thing. And then I'm going to go back again, okay? Okay, so let's move on and talk about the phases in detail. I'll take this back. Here's your initiative phase, special rules. If your superior unit, 79th Guard, tank division, and there's actually 2, or 2nd and 3rd Brigade HQs for the 3rd Armored, are on the map and in deployed mode. +1 per HQ present to the initiative roll. If all superior HQs have been eliminated, then they lose initiative. And then special rules apply for the scenario. And then in the command phase only, dawn turns. Starting with the non-initiative player, you can reassign helicopters, artillery, etc. Command and control phase, command system. It's about command points, allows theoretically unlimited, so I can activate as many times as I want. The downside is we'll see as we activate, you move out of, green, your headquarters are orderly. Now you're kind of getting disrupted, too busy, red, orange, and then red. And actually to show you, that directly applies against other things. Every time you do an action in general, you've got to roll on the snafu table. And you can see if I'm not too busy, I guess is the only word I want to say, activity, not very likely I'm going to get, and it's 1d10 for this with these modifiers here. Not likely I'm going to get something bad, but as we move up in the number of points, potentially I could end up here. And we do see 1 unit disrupted, 1 unit low ammo. The opposing player's choice. 1 unit disrupted, 1 unit low ammo, 2 HQ strike. They hunt down your HQ and strike it. And then we got the whole finished one. If you got to flip the HQ to finish, and you're just done for the turn. So this is what's going to prevent overuse of activations. It's a balance between these. And if you're disrupted, you add +2 to the die. If you're lightly engaged, add +1. Heavily engaged for the formation, +2. So that's going to be part of the game, balancing out how many activations as opposed to not having negative effects from the snafu table. Then we got TAC or deployed mode. That affects the command range. We do see here, I think we do see it. Yep, command range is more if you're in deployed mode. Let's see, superior HQs also have special functions. 2nd and 3rd Brigade, 79th, attack or deployed, so those are potentially available in scenarios. Superior HQ, we just talked about that, +1. General support artillery. Superior HQs, we're going to see different types of artillery. General support not assigned to a unit versus artillery support assigned to the unit, and potentially onboard artillery can be present also. Let's see, superior H code movement and mode changes. Superior HQs can change mode or move when a subordinate formation gets a movement or a posture change. Okay, so let's talk about HQ modes here. I think I covered all that. And the mode of the HQ determines the mode for the whole formation. Influence movement and combat. Explain later. Change modes at no cost in orders. Deployment order in the command phase freely change. During the order phase, it's going to cause a command. Also, we have engagement status. Default is unengaged, recorded by the marker on the box here. Let's see. Yeah, it's probably here. This is where your engagement status for the HQ is going to be. And they do talk about if at least one unit of the formation receives enemy fire, heavily engaged. If at least one unit of the formation engages in fire combat, lightly engaged. Okay, so once both sides shoot at each other, both formations are heavily engaged. Actions cost double, and we do see these adjustments. Yeah, 2 spaces. HQ range, expressed in hexes, not movement points. All units of a given formation in command if they're within range. Out of command marker if they're out of range. And here's the penalty. Units that begin the impulse out of command can only perform reaction fire and move. And in addition, giving them movement orders that will move them further from the HQ costs an additional shift in the command track. That's interesting. Okay, keep that in mind. And they have some good examples through here. Issue a movement order to companies A, B, and C are in command range, and they can push each towards D company, can only move towards 1210 by the fastest path. Yeah. Want to keep it to guard the bridge there. Okay. NATO cross attachment, transfer companies between battalions, 2 companies from other formations. Interesting. Doesn't really apply here yet. I've only got 11th ACR, but and it speaks NATO. That implies we're going to see other games with other countries, and you can record that. Soviets have a concept of forward security element. The 79th Guard, there's a main headquarters, and then there's a forward security element. We see that here. Yeah, here's the main HQ. Nice, range of 12, and then the forward security element. I'm going to have to figure this out. And right now on the board, and that's considered the forward security element can only control, I think, up to 6 units. Yeah, 6 units, including on-map artillery drawn from 1 regiment. And we do see in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. I just added this guy. So it's kind of considered enough of a one to kind of get way ahead of the advance, or get ahead of the advance, scout things out, and then the main comes in behind it. So you do see 2 of these. Okay. During any recovery caves, it can be disbanded. They return to their original formation. If an SCN unit is ever beyond the FSE command range, then it's, and this is something I'm going to have to look up at, what is the FSE command range? It's only 1. Wow. Got to keep these guys tight. That's what I'm thinking I'm seeing here. If I remember, the top number is how much it comes back, and the second number is range. Range 1. Going to have to be really tight, especially since they're attacking. So, figured that one out. The parent regiment, the regiment still recovers its command. Okay. So special rules. This means if the FC is on map but the parent regiment is not, the regiment still recovers its command status during the. Oh, that's good to know too. Yeah, see how they've dashed it here, but 6, that's pretty big. So we'll recover. Then we have command capacity recovery. Formation recovers part of its command capacity equivalent to the effectiveness rating. So, for example, if we look to the 7th Guards tank, they will effectively recover 4 points from here. So if you're here, you recover up to 4. So that's how you get your actions back. But if you get way up here, it's going to be hard to do. Going to have a lot of snafus, no pun intended. And here's your example. 17th Guard is at 13. Its effectiveness rate is 4, so they bring it down to 9 during the end phase of the turn. They're eliminated. They're 1-step loss. HQ units. A disrupted HQ is immediately flipped to its tactical mode. It cannot switch back to deployed until it rallies, so you got to get out of disrupted mode. Reduces their range in tactical mode, kind of like they're buttoning up. And then if they're destroyed, they are put on the turn track 2 ahead. And they've got to be within command range of the secure HQ when they reconstitute. All right, here's a big component of the game, the snafu table. If you don't know the acronym, you can look it up. Every time an HQ is activated, the active player blows 1d10 on the snafu table, and we basically cross-reference the die with the modifiers and the command status, and potentially there is a detrimental effect. And they go into effects, and we can look at that snafu table here. I had it up. Yep, there we go. So you do see if an HQ is not disrupted, not engaged, and in the green, there's no snafus. Okay, effectively. But as they move up in their activities and/or their situation, like immediately, if they're fired upon, they've got a +2. And this roll is done before every activation, the alternating activations in the turn. So, yes, this is a big component. You start asking yourself, I'm already at yellow. Should I risk going to orange? There's a bunch of stuff that can happen. Starting in orange, I could be done for the turn. And then the kicker with this is, and we do see it here in the rules, 1 or 2 of the activated formation are disrupted. The inactive player selects which ones. That'll shut down your attack in a heartbeat. Same with low ammo. The inactive player selects the affected, and this will be a fire combat. This will reduce your modifiers. And then here's an even worse one, counter battery strike. One of the active player's artillery batteries on its fire side is subject to counter battery strike. The inactive player selects which one. So if there's any in the formation that have fired, it kind of implies that they've been tracked down to their location and they get a counter battery strike. That's a CB strike on the chart. And then an HQ strike, the activated HQ is subject to an air artillery strike. That's not good. Okay, so if we look at this table, yeah, we can get an HQ strike starting in yellow, and then in orange we start getting counter battery strikes, finished for the turn, HQ strikes. Kind of motivates you not to push it too far. And then they talk about HQ finished. It's finished for the turn. If the activated HQ or the superior HQ is finished for the turn, flip to its finish side. If the finish HQ is a superior HQ, all subordinate formation HQs have their flip to finish. And that ends it. So that's a big component here. Moving into the orders phase now. This is where basically we have the back and forth. Units can act as many times in a turn as their owning player wishes, but the chance of snafu consequences rise with each new order. And we did notice that if they're heavily engaged, I think it's double. We can look at that too. Let me get that here. There it is. So yeah, here's, and this would be put on the formation card if I had it up. Let's just do this right. So let's say, for example, the 11th ACR, if one of their units reaction fires as these guys cross the border, they become lightly engaged +2 on the snafu table. Now, if these units fire back, they become heavily engaged. And now every order costs 2, not 1. Quickly move you up the track there. So that'll take things off here. Orders phase. If both players pass in sequence, the orders phase ends immediately, or if all their units are finished, for example. Movement order, impulse ends. So I guess the big thing is what are the orders here? And we do see the list starting here on page 12, but they also provide on one of the charts kind of a summary too here. So that's handy on the terrain effects chart. So what can you do? Airstrike. Active player can request and execute an airstrike. Got to have a spotter, roll against command. We'll see that later. Assault. Activated units adjacent to enemy units can perform assault actions. But before you do the assault, the defending units get to fire at you as you approach. So that's kind of a two-edged sword. Here we got call for fire. Artillery units, organic, attached, or in general support can call for fire against an enemy target at a single target hex. Coordination, if the result is 5 or 8, he can issue 2 orders rather than 1. The orders are issued sequentially. The second order can be issued to a different formation or the same one. Let's see. When a second order is issued to a different formation, move the command marker of the second formation 1 space to the right. If the coordination die roll fails, the activated formation makes a snafu with a command status level 1 level worse. Okay, interesting. If you want to do multiple actions, Soviet player issues coordination order to 45th and 17th. He rolls a 3 and fails. Oops, both regiments must now roll on the snafu. 17th is fresh and green. Okay, 45th is yellow. And they check 1 up, so the 17th checks it yellow. So there is potentially a downside to this. The second order can be the same as the first, thus a formation can be issued 2 move orders in a row. Nice. Engage. An engage order only to units in deployed mode. An engage order allows the unit to fire and move or move and fire. Combines fire and movement. It costs 2 shifts on the command track. Okay. So fire and move and fire only for deployed units. So we need to clearly understand a unit when it's in deployed mode. Standard fire combat just means activated units fire at one enemy target in their range and line of sight. HE fires against a hex, AP fires against a target. Movement, activated units can spend movement points according to their current mode. But if they're out of command, I think we saw, they better move towards the HQ. Otherwise, I think it costs another point to move away. And then a posture change. Switch from tactical to deployed mode for the HQ. So I guess that's how you get in deployed mode. You make your HQ go to deployed mode, except for mechanized infantry. And then there's a rally and resupply. May try to rally to remove disruption or an ammo low marker or any reduced HEM supply marker on a successful roll. And rally and resupply is considered movement for the purpose of reaction fire. Ooh, that's good to know. So even that may trigger enemy fire. So this is how you get rid of disruption or reload, rearm. And a passing player can choose to pass or must pass if all are finished or if the superior HQ, and if both pass, you're done. So when you issue an order, you roll on the snafu table. Let's see, that's this one here. With the modifiers as they apply. Probably +2 heavily engaged once you're in the combat, and then based on how many orders you've given. In all cases, as a result, the command status markers move 1 box down the command track. Okay, we've issued the order. Gonna move. You're still gonna move it on your command track. Even this doesn't matter what the result on the snafu table is. I'm still gonna move this if I issue an order. But for all we know, the snafu then may cause a finished, and you're flipped and you're done. Okay, and when they say down, they just mean increase. I think that's well known. We increase the number of commands. That makes sense. So there we go. Implement the results. So, and then they break into the different types of orders you can do. Movement orders, unit by unit, no stack movement is allowed due to the reaction fire system. Hey, no zones of control. Everybody keep that in mind. So basically, the only way I'm going to impede their advance is through fire, or literally occupying a hex. There is no zone of control here, so we'll see. And reaction fire, every time I do reaction fire, I can do it more than once, but it's a command point each time. Okay. And once we start exchanging fire, pretty much every time I reaction fire, that's 2 commands. I'm reading that right, so interesting. So, movement mode, and here's your movement allowances right here. I think I put them on the charts. Yeah, I did. Good. If you're in deployed mode, basically your spread out frontage, I think that's mainly driven by your HQ. Can't cross water, can't cross rivers. You're an HE target. You get a defensive fire bonus. You're spread and available. You can only move 1 hex. Movement allowance of 1. Okay. If you're in tactical mode, you have a movement allowance of 4, but we're going to see in combat you get a -2. And if you're in march mode, first you got to shift into march mode. That's an order. And then you have to do another movement order to actually move. And there's march costs, and you can only stack 2. No firing, +4 firepower to the units firing at you. Okay, so like a lot of games, don't get caught in march mode. So those are the movement point costs. And we can look at the terrain effects here, and we do see movement costs in TAC and march. Notice there isn't a deploy. You can just move 1 depending on not breaking any of these rules. And in TAC mode, clear as 1, going up a hill. And this is the only hill you have. The contours you ignore. It's only when you move into the actual hill hex. Got to do it 2. Woods are 3. A wooded hill is 5. Don't know how you're going to get there. Have to think about that. 1.5 into a village, 1.5 into a town. These have no effect when you're in TAC mode. You can't cross a river. Thank you. You can't in TAC mode. In the inter-German border, it needs to initially cost +1 just because of the barriers. You go into march mode and you do see clear as a half. Hill is 1.5. Woods are 2. Wooded hill is 3. Village is a half because we're assuming roads. Towns are a half. Autobahn is 0. Secondary 1/2. And if I'm reading this right, march mode, you got to cross a river at a bridge. That's the key there. Inter-German border is still +1. And we'll talk about these later, and I think this is a misprint. This should be -2, not 12. But we'll see that later too. Unit assumes an extended combat. Okay, deployed mode, emphasizing firepower and protection over mobility, hence movement allowance of 1. Mechanized infantry units dismount from there to better use ground cover and deploy support weapons. Only move 1 hex. Water obstacles can't be crossed. Mech infantry are considered eligible HE targets for direct fire. Also get a defensive fire. Actually, your defensive fires are better too. So is this in deployed mode or TAC mode? Gonna have to figure that out before starting the game. TAC mode, unit sacrificing firepower and protection for increased mobility. Infantry are in their APCs, and we did see different values there. -2 to their firing value. And then march mode, column, form, water obstacles can be crossed. We'll see, I believe we'll see that on rivers, but stacking is only 2 units. To enter march mode, a unit must already be in TAC mode. A unit in TAC mode receiving a movement order enters march mode, but has to wait, cannot move this impulse. Good to know. In subsequent order influences, okay, so not even the same mode. Leaving march mode requires the unit to spend a whole movement order to remove it, or the whole formation switching from TAC to deployed. Okay, switching between tactical and march modes is a movement action for the purpose of it will draw fire. Let's see. 4 movement points in tac mode, 1 hex. Notice the difference here. My chart looked a little different. 4 MPs, 1 hex in deployed mode. So you can move 1 hex, just can't cross rivers. Spent ground units, continuous path. Yeah, can't skip. Obstacles and roads. Let's talk about bridges. Bridges exist where it crosses a river. If you're in deployed or tactical mode, you're not crossing at the bridge. There is a way to cross the river, we'll see, but units in march mode use a bridge to cross the water obstacle at no additional cost. Common sense there. Let's talk about a river, though. Units in tactical or march mode can cross rivers, but it requires multiple movement orders. In the first, you have to stop adjacent to the river. In the next, you cross to the river hex side, and then in a third movement order, you can keep moving. So keep that in mind. Just looking at the chart. Yeah, they've kind of got an X because of special rules, I call it here. So rivers can be crossed. March mode across a bridge. Tactical and deployed mode. Yeah, it's basically 3 movement orders. Rubble. Any successful HE mission, not chem, ICM, smoke, or fast cam, will create a rebel hex against a town, not a village. Okay, so I got to know the difference between towns and villages here. And we do see town pretty much fills the hex. Village is lighter brown and doesn't, which means all of these are villages here. But if we go here, that's a town, darker brown. So artillery against those will cause rubble. Units in march mode can't enter a rubble hex. And adds +1 to HE and artillery defensive values of the hex and negates existence of the road. Okay. Roads, units in march mode get the benefit of reduced movement. Otherwise they don't. Units in march mode on Autobahn are 0, and then they give some nice examples. So let's say this unit, for example, moves along the Autobahn until they leave here. And then I think they spend half to get to there. This guy basically can only move 1. He's in tactical, I would assume. But the forest costs 2. Let's see. Yeah, B is in tactical mode. A moves along the Autobahn, no movement points, then moves as half MP, then to following the road again for another half, for a total of 1 movement point. So he's okay. Unit B is moving from 0805 to 0806 and the cost of 3 MP for woods. He's in tactical mode though. Let me check that here. Woods, tactical, 3. Yep, there we go. That's right. So, oops, cancel, wrong button. So let's move that off here. So there you go. There's your examples of movement. That's 3. Well, this guy is going 1/2, 1, 1 and 1/2, 2 and 1/2. I'm guessing 3 and 1/2. Let's see if I got that right. Unit C moves along the road, spending 1.5 MPs. Then it veers east to 1102, spending another 2 MPs, 1 per hex for 3.5. There you go. So there's a good example here. All right, let's keep going. This is going to be a long one, but I think we'll get through it around an hour, and that's good. Fire combat, that's our other big thing here. RP fire values have a range in a white circle, HE number in the green box. Well, it doesn't look green, but that's okay. And we do talk about it here, like this guy has a range of 3, 1, 2, 3. And there is line of sight too. Line of sight is block, hex blocks hex containing any amount of woods, any amount of woods, not going through the woods. So, even if I draw a line of sight and it doesn't touch the green, if it has any amount of woods, it blocks. The entire hex is assumed to be filled with the terrain. It also is blocked if it lies straight down a hex side bordering 2 hexes containing. So like if it was coming down here, there's woods on either side. But if only one side has woods and the other doesn't, I don't know where that would be a case, then it wouldn't be blocked. Smoke markers block line of sight out of a firing hex, but not into one. So the -4 only applies into. Contour lines, they are not hills. They offer a better idea of the layout of the terrain, but have no game function. A hill is defined as a hex with a triangle right there, or right there, or right there. So literally single hill hexes. And then they do line of sight example. Obviously here is blocked by the woods, to here is blocked by the woods. This is not blocked because they're adjacent. This is blocked because even though it doesn't touch the green, it, considered all full of woods, okay? This is not blocked, clear terrain all the way. This is blocked because the target hex is behind the smoke. If the smoke was, you could fire at the smoke hex. You can't fire at anything beyond the smoke hex. So smoke is effective. So they could lay smoke here with their artillery before they approach. So that gives you an idea of line of sight here. AP fire, each unit fires individually. And they define vehicle again, AFE unit, mech infantry in march or tack. In a clear Audubon hex or on-map artillery. Use the orange armor value. Oh yeah, and this is if you have two values here, depending on what you're firing. If it's regular AP fire, or this is a defense against anti-tank guided missile fire. AP, red armor value, right of the slash. Defending against heat. Okay, good. Well, I guess defending, I'll have to think about that. What's heat? High explosive. AP, and the red armor value, right of the slash when defending against heat. I'm assuming that's ATGM, but we'll see. To resolve AP fire, subtract the armor of the target from the firing unit's AP factor, its base fire value. So let's say, for example, this guy moves here, and that's going to draw reaction fire within range. He has a choice of doing the AP or the ATGM here, or heat. High explosive anti-tank usually, but not always ATGM, denoted by the red value on the fire column. Okay. So the result is equal to less, okay, and then you roll the die. So let's see if this works. Let's see if I fire this 9. Wow, you're not very strong, dude. That's an 8. Okay. We're going to see other modifiers in here, but my base fire value is an 8. So if I roll, let's just say he's here. He's in clear. We're not going to worry about terrain or anything, but we can look at the charts here and work it out. This will give you a taste before I go through the rules here. There we go. I got all the modifiers here. So AP fire, if the fire is disrupted, -2. Firing unit in tack mode. Okay, let's assume they are in tack mode because they want to beat feet. Low on ammo. Ooh, that's a big one, -4. Range greater than 2 hexes, non-ATGM. No, we're within 2. We're good. Smoke and target hex, -4. Target in deployed mode. It isn't, it's moving. I'll assume they're in tack mode. Target in march mode, you get a +4. And then you get terrain. So if we do look at terrain, let's give him an advantage here. Let's say he was here, though. He's in woods. And this should be a -2. There's an example where it does say that, so that's a -2. So coming back here, let's figure it out. Let's say 9 minus 1 is 8. I'm doing that right. And then we work down here. Let's assume they're in tack mode. 6. Range is not greater. Target is not either of these. Terrain, though, 6, you get a -2. That's a 4. So they've got to roll a 4, which they didn't. They rolled an 8, okay? So that would have been a miss. But let's see if I get lucky here. No, 2. So let's say they rolled a 2. That would have been a hit, and what you do is you go to the combat chart, and this is interesting. AP fire, 2. That's all you do. So you're kind of doing 2 kind of unrelated things. You know, if 8 would have let me hit, it would have allowed a lot of damage. So it's kind of a mix between, if you have a high base fire value, then also you can get a better result here if you hit. But if you don't hit, this table is irrelevant. So in the case of a 2, AP fire, 1. And 1, of course, is poof. That's it. They are flipped. Now, you can also get, let's see, I had a 4. So I could get a disrupted instead, or a 1-step loss and a disrupted if I had modifiers to take me to 0. And if I was disrupted, yeah, you do see going forward, if I issue orders, +2 snafu, and -2 any fire they do. So that's a good thing to do here. Let's see, if I took the ATGM, now this is going to be ugly. 18 minus 1 is 17. 17 minus 2 for tack mode is 15. Minus 2 for this is 13. So it's just a matter of rolling the die here. Although look at this. There are no 10s. This is a 0. But there's another snafu. If you ever roll a 9, it doesn't matter how good you're doing, you're going to lose. In this case, I roll a 5. That's going to be a hit, and I go to the 5 column, and it's HP. Yeah, here we go. 2D. Ouch. That means that guy goes off the board into the headquarters reorg. If I'd rolled an 8, permanently destroyed. Okay. But because I fired, we're seeing the rules later, I will now have this. And the next time I fire, I will have that until I do a rally or resupply. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a taste of the combat, but let's go through this real quick. If the F is -0, it will still cause a successful hit. Okay, and here we go. Disrupted, we do see -2. Firing unit is in tactical mode, -2, because they aren't concentrating their firepower or making their firepower effectiveness by being in deployed mode. Low on ammo, -4. Range greater than 2, except for ATGMs. 2. Smoke, firing it into a hex, not through. It blocks for anything beyond it. 4. Target unit mode. Targets in deployed mode, it's harder to hurt them because they are deployed and spread out. Targets in march mode. So tactical mode, I think, is the standard no modifier. And then we did see the terrain effects does have it. Let's take a look back at those terrain effects chart. So AP fire, we got -1 for a hill. That's nice, firing uphill. -2, -2. Village is -2. Town is -3. Wow, if you're on an Autobahn, if you're on the Autobahn, using the Autobahn, I guess, +1. And I think that's it. That's it. Okay, for AP fire. And again, AP fire is against a specific target. Units with red fire values represent ATGMs. So this recon, if I read this right, I'll have to look at this. This is an interesting unit, 6-1, and that's in red also. Yeah, this unit is 3-2, but that's not in red. So that's interesting. I'll look at the other recon units and see if they're the same. Red value, ATGM. If the target has 1 yellow and 1 red, the red armor value, that's the, like we talked about here. This is against regular AP, this is against ATGM. And ATGM depletion, here's what we're talking about. Carry smaller number of missiles. Reloading can be time consuming. Every time a unit, including a helicopter, uses ATGM, receives a low marker. When missiles are fired again, it goes to no ATGM, except for Soviet BMPs, who immediately, they only have that 1 missile, and then they're gone. Here's the Cobras that could have, and these get assigned as a pool of assets. These are 1-use ATGM missiles that can be fired by T-80s. During any fire order, simply place a marker on the firing tank unit. Fire it. Once used, the missile is expended, so you can run out of these after time. Let's see, are we still working? Yeah, disrupted result here. High explosive, that's different. Affects all units in the hex, but only soft units can be used to satisfy losses. So HE fire against a hex will disrupt vehicles, hard targets, whatever you want to call them. But if losses are inflicted, they can only be against soft targets. If there are no soft targets, then there's no losses, but you can use HE fire to disrupt hard targets. And here's another big one. Several firing units can combine their HE values against a single hex. Okay. HE defense of the target hex is found, then subtracted. BFE is then modified to determine the final fire value. And if you roll under it, you go to the HE table. A D10 is then rolled to determine the result. Oh, never mind. It's not a matter of do you hit or not. So we'll look at that here. And here are the modifiers. So let's take, for example, I'm just going to try this. I didn't pre-plan this. Let's, because we can use both, and these wouldn't be on board. They need to be spotted. But let's say for whatever reason, yeah, this guy's spotting, and then this guy's able to fire. So, and he's in clear. That's not good. And is he in tactical or deployed mode would determine it too. But basically that's 16 right there if both of those units combine to fire. And then we go through the modifiers. It's not disrupted. Fire unit in attack mode. No. Bow and ammo. No. Range equals 1. Now this is a case where if you're point blank, you get a +2. No smoke. Targets, let's say they are in deploy mode. No, they aren't. -1, yeah. So that 16 goes down to 15. But the problem is the terrain. It is a big problem. Clear, modifier 0. So we're just firing on the HE table. But let's say we do this, let's see, let's go here. So yeah, RD, and again, if you're on 9, you totally flubbed. But here's the RD, but let's say they're here. They're in here. So that's a woods heck. And if we go there, HE defense 5, okay? So we got 16 -5. Still going to get a hit. But let's say they're in attack mode. They're not going to take a loss. But if they're in deployed mode, because this is mech infantry, they may take a loss here. And let's see, we roll, get a 6, 1D. So, for example, if they were in tactical mode, they're hard, no losses, but they would be disrupted. And this is all the units in the hex. So if there was more than one unit in the hex, let's do that here. All the units are disrupted, but only one unit, if they were in deployed mode, takes the loss. Okay, so HE fire is different. Against the hex, potentially affects all units in the hex. They can all be disrupted, but losses can only be applied against soft targets. And like I said, if it's one, it's only one unit getting that effect here. Kind of quick way to go through that there. Let me do see the chart. A denotation disrupts all the units, fix the English, in the hex. Losses are extracted from a single soft unit. Okay. The maximum loss for each HE fire action is 1 step, so that's a good point. Yeah, you're not going to wipe out a hex. RD 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Well, that's interesting. There's a 2 right here. That's already, oh, I was on the wrong channel. Here's HE right here. HE, you do see only one. Only one. So like maybe these guys fired. Okay. RD's different because it can also take a loss from a hard target too. So I guess this is the direct fire value. This is the artillery value here. So maybe it would have been better to, like this guy has a 6. Well, let's see what happens here. Let's see if this guy is, for whatever reason, decides to do, they're in deployed mode, for example. So he says, I'm going to do HE fire. I'm going to do a 6 against 5 defense, but I get a +2 for, let's see what we get here. Not disrupted, firing unit in attack mode. That'll kill us right there, but range is 1, we get +2. So let's, all other things equal, we're at 8, and this is at 5 defense. 8, yeah, we're at 8, and that's at 5 defense. And the BFE is then the several firing units combined. If the HE defense target found on the con is then subtracted from the total to get the base final value of the attack. It's then modified to determine the FFE. A D10 is rolled to determine the result, cross-checking the result on the HE line. Okay. So let's look at the example they have here just to get this better. And then we've got reaction fire. Well, we'll talk about that here. Let's see. There should be an HE example here. Let's check there. Right here. Company is deployed in Lutan, right here. Has moved into site in 1417. The Soviet order input and the U.S. starts a zone. Let's see. ATGM, next to perform reaction fire. I'm going to have to find it. You got some good reaction examples here. Okay. Okay. The Soviet player reaction fire against Luton. On the other hand, the two units can fire HE on Luton, hoping to disrupt it. Okay. And Luton believes in attack mode. So their combined HE file value is 14, but they're at range 1. So they get 16, but they're in attack mode. They go back to 14. U.S. defense is 4. One unit is in deployed mode, -1. The FFE is 9. Okay, rolls getting a 4, same thing, less than the FFV, so it is a hit. And on that result, they get a 1. The U.S. company loses 1 step. And let's see, this is only 1 shift on the command track since 2 firing units were the same formation. So just doing this again, that would be 6 plus 2 is 8. And it would be 8 minus 5 is 3. So they'd have to roll a 1, 2, or 3. And they didn't. They rolled a 9. That's a total whiff. So it got to roll under the FFE, just like before. And then if you do get under it, you can look at the result. And HE, they get a disruption. So they could have used HE, just as an example here. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. When in doubt, there is actually a good solid page and a half of examples of AP and HE fire. Okay. Real quick, reaction fire. Let's see where I'm at. I'm at an hour, so let's see what we can get here. Reaction fire, special form when an active unit moves, fires, assaults, or airstrikes inside the range and LOS of an inactive player. It has the option to issue a fire order to a single unit in range and loss. Line of sight. One exception, can't use ATGM fire as reaction fire against an assault. Command track is increased by 1, so that's a big one, as long as all units belong to the same formation. But no snafu roll is made. That's important. Units in different hexes or different parent formations cost 1 shift each. Okay. Fire triggered reaction fire occurs after completing the fire action by the active player. Okay, this is how you can react. Movement triggers reaction fire. So let's clean this up. Let's show an example of this. I'll keep this off board. I'll delete this. And again, let's say this guy moves here. So, and I don't have 2 of these. Delete. So then this guy, this guy then can do reaction fire against this guy. I guess he could do HE if he really wanted to, but why? And probably the reaction fire will be, well, let's make this harder. This guy's a wimp. Let's say this guy moves here. There we go. All right, so now we're taking on a T80 here. So let's see, if I do my regular fire here, 9 minus 5, I've got a 4. And then, are we in TAC? Are we in deployed? This unit's probably in TAC mode. So we'd run the numbers, and we'd increase the command track by 1. Let's see, 18 would be against 7. So let's say I did ATGMs. 18 minus 7 is 11. And then if we look at the modifiers, 11, let's do woods first. So we lose 2 for that, so that goes down to a 9. And then let's look at the different things here. 9. Let's say the firing unit is in TAC mode, ready to run, down to 7. Range isn't greater than 2. 7. And the target unit is in TAC mode, so it's 7. If I did this right. If I did this one, though, 9 minus 5 is 4. I'm in TAC mode, that's 2. Um, and I'll assume there are, well, that's not very, and then I'm down 2 again for the woods. I'm 0. So if I wanted to fire this guy in the woods, I need to use my ATGMs here. So that'd be 18 minus 7 is 11. Down 2 for this is 9. Down 2 again. TAC mode is 7. Yeah, and we can assume it is a 7. That gives me better odds. I fire. I get a 4. I get this. And if I look at this 4, AP 4, 1 step loss. There you go. And this would be reaction fire to the unit moving. Then the unit could keep moving if it wanted. And guess what? I could do it again, I guess. It's going to move the command track, but no snafu roll. And it will be my last, maybe this time what I'm going to do is 9 minus 5 is 4. They're in clear terrain, but the problem is I'm in TAC mode, so that takes me down to 2. Let's see, but then one more step here, I go to 2. And there's no value here, so that's a 2. So again, I'm going to use the ATGM. 18 minus 7 is 11 again, and I'm going to get a really high number this time. 11, I'm in TAC mode, is down 2, which takes me to 9, and that's it. So if I fire again, I get a 2. Let's look at the chart here. 1. Now, in this case, it's only 1. If I had gotten 2, it would be permanently eliminated because total of 3 steps. But with 1, it'll go to the reorg. And on top of that, though, I'm out. Okay. So that means the rest of the tanks are going to rush. Because again, no zones of control. And that's the advantage. If I've got numbers, have them waste their time on this one, then these guys can keep moving. Okay. So yeah, that's interesting give and take there. Yeah, good examples there. Did we talk about assault combat? We'll just cover, I think that's somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Combat results in rally, we talked about that here. It's temporary state. Disruption effects. Move 1 hex not adjacent to enemy. Cannot assault. -2 BFV. Second disruption causes a step loss. That's important. Okay. All disrupted units not adjacent to enemy units rally to undisrupted automatically during the last phase. But if I want to get them going in the orders phase again, I have to spend an action doing a rally. A formation may issue a rally order to any number of units under its command to remove any of the following: disruption, MLO, or ATGM. Roll a d10 for each unit, equal or less against its effectiveness, HQ effectiveness rating. Units adjacent to enemy suffer a +2 die roll modifier. Units within 3 hexes of enemy units in their line of sight, a +1. Okay. So yeah, if I want to keep using that unit here, like this guy's out of ammo, and if I want to use an action to C, I'd have to roll a 5 or less. But not really. I got a +2 DRM because I'm adjacent. Well, this guy got destroyed. So I'd probably immediately, let's say this guy did get destroyed, probably immediately maybe do an action and say, hey, resupply. Flub. But there, 0. A 0 is a 0 in this. So that would have resupplied him. Or if he had been disrupted too. So that's a valid action. Let's see, step losses, permanent elimination, we've talked all about that. But if you get a unit suffers a second loss, removed from the map and placed on its formation reorganizing box, waiting for it to be reorganized. Unit suffers a third step, it's completely eliminated. And I think when it's reorganized, it comes back as 1 step. And then we've got assault combat. Only undisrupted units may assault. Makes sense. During assaults, HE fire can be used also if the target hex contains any hard units. Okay, that's good. So we have the assault declaration, which hex each activated unit will assault, and rotate them maybe to show which way. And then here's the key, defender reaction fire. Each unit being assaulted may fire once at one assaulting unit, paying 1, typo, command track shift per fire. And I'm assuming there's no snafu here, it's reaction fire. Units that are disrupted by this fire cease their activation, cannot enter the target hex. Exception, HEGM fire cannot be used, too close, but they can fire their cannons. And then the assaulting units move into the hex, and then the assaulting units perform an HE fire action with appropriate modifiers. Again, no HEGMs. If there's more than one attacking unit, you select a lead unit, uses its HE value, and then each additional unit gets +1 to the BFV. If all defending units are eliminated or disrupted, the assaulting units win and occupy the hex, while disrupting defending units retreat. The defender still has non-disrupting units in the hack, the attacker retreats. So you can do that. And retreat rules. Here's your order. A hex not adjacent to any enemy units. A hex containing a friendly unit adjacent to an enemy unit. A hex adjacent to an enemy unit that was not involved in the assault, or a hex closer to its HQ unit. It must be to an adjacent hex free of enemy units according to these priorities. Okay. If no retreat exists, surrender. And they are removed from play, not reorganized. Okay. Let's see how we're doing. I'll finish it. This is a long one, but you know, if you've held on this far, you probably want to get to the end. Let's see. Artillery units, individual batteries, 6 to 8 guns, not placed, or not considered ground units, not placed directly on the map. Instead, artillery batteries are assigned to formations kept in general support. During each dawn turn, each player is free to assign artillery batteries to various formations. So in reality, this is what we have here. This guy's here. So that's available. They may also be assigned to superior HQs as general support. Can be issued a call for fire by any activated formation, provided the activated HQ is within command range of the superior HQ. And a successful command check is checked. And when a command check is required, the player rolls a D10 equal to or less the effective rating of the battery's superior HQ that issued the order. Yeah, it looks like the command check is only done when it's the superior and general fire support. Call for fire is a fire order. Unlike a normal fire order, it targets a single hex but can be issued to any number of batteries, either in direct support of the formation issuing the order or in general support. General support batteries must perform a command check. That's the only thing here. It's eligible as to within 3 hexes in line of sight of a unit of the activated formation HQ. Doesn't matter if the unit's in command or not. A spotting HQ located in a hill or wooded hill hex, 4 hexes. Okay. Same procedures as HE fire, but using the artillery values and can combine and the artillery defensive values. Okay, so that is a difference here. Let's look at that first. Notice there is a HE defense and an artillery defense. And notice hills give you 0, woods only give you 1. Yeah, you want to be in a village or a town. Those are the only ones that hold their own against it. So again, hill, woods, and wooded hill, artillery is dangerous. And then if we look at here, notice it does have a separate column too from the HE fire, and it is possible with an 8 to get 2. And we'll also see with artillery that they can affect vehicles. There are other, we've got, here's where we talk about, here we go. Unlike HE units, all units, not just soft units, can suffer losses. absorbed in priority by soft units first, but if only hard units are in the hex, they will suffer stop losses. Targeted player always chooses. That's important too. High explosive rounds, they can fire smoke, won't cause damage, but you get a smoke marker. That's good. And chem, if the Soviets want to do it. All units automatically disrupted in the hex remains in the hex until the next recovery cleanup. Anybody entering that hex, subject to an artillery attack with an FFV of 4. And roll 1d10, that's what the 0 to 7 stands for on the marker, to see if it dissipates. ICM adds +3 to the firepower rating of a firing battery, but expends 1 ICM marker. Improved conventional munitions. I think it's only NATO who has that, or FastCam is the one. Only NATO can do FastCam. Immediately attacks each vehicle in the hex with an AP FFV of 3, and all others with an HE FFV of 3. Any vehicle entering the hex with a FastCam will be subject to an AP or HE of FFV of 3. Expands the FastCam markers. Ooh, they are left there for the whole game. That's nice. Then we've got our artillery fire modifiers. Firing units disrupted if it's on board -2. If the target hex contains 1 or more hard units, subtract 2. Okay, what they can be affected. Low ammo -4. Target hex has smoke -4. And if there's 1 unit in deployed mode, defensive terrain is increased by 1. Okay, good to know there. Let's see. When a formation is issued a move order, off-map artillery batteries attached to it can be flipped from their fire to their normal side. Okay, so you can fire more than one time. Let's see. Soviet formation. Yeah, I think they got. Oh no, these are blank. I'll have to look at that. Some have fire markers. All right, and then we got helicopters, airstrikes, and night turns. Let's just push on through here. Helicopters are individual companies or troops. They work in a slightly different way than normal ground companies. Helicopters are either assigned to a formation HQ in direct support or a superior HQ in general support, just like artillery. They can be issued movement and fire orders. Helicopters do not have modes. Okay, we don't have landed, map of the earth, or any. We're not that detailed. They're just constantly assumed moving, trying to find good terrain, etc. Off-map general support also receive movement orders, but the issuing HQ can only order 1 or more helicopters currently assigned to the same onto the map. Once they're moved onto the map, they're in part of the formation until they back off. Helicopters have unlimited movement, so you may pick them up and put them where they want. Within command range of the activated HQ. On-map helicopters can be moved off, and the reason you do that maybe is to resupply. Okay, fire orders, helicopters are subject to all rules regarding HEGM, meaning they have 2 salvos. And line of sight, though, is blocked by 2 contiguous blocking, not just 1, since they do have a height advantage. Helicopters can rally and resupply only in off-map boxes, so you got to pull them off the map once they run out. Let's see. Helicopters can be engaged by anti-aircraft. Blue AP missile range circle. Obviously, you can't assault a helicopter. For the purpose of movement orders, helicopters can operate at double the command range of the controlling. Thus, a helicopter can be placed on the map at twice the printed command range of its controlling HQ. Yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at some helicopters here. Okay, yeah, here we go. They'll come in later, but notice, yeah, they have the Gatling gun up front. I think this is an Apache 9 range 2, 12 range 8. That's pretty awesome. This guy can be way over here and way out of range. Okay, and then fire here. They've also got an HE value, 6 and 2, and their armor value is 2. against AE fire, against anti-aircraft fire, which I don't know. Do I have? Let's see, Soviet. Let's take a look at that. Here we go. Okay. Cobra AT, there's that AT. Okay, so that's like the thing that my T-80 could be using. SU, those. What am I looking for? I'm looking for anti-aircraft. That's assigned per unit. Hold on. So I've either got the ZSU or I've got the actual mobile SAM. And it's blue and the range, and I've got an 8. We'll look at it, but I think 8 minus 2 is 6. And if they're in attack mode, maybe they go down 2, but yeah, so the helicopter can be attacked. This is range 2, attack of 4. It's cannon, they're saying. But by the same token, this can be used as with ground combat. I don't think this can. So these are the units that can potentially shoot a helicopter or even a airstrike. We'll see. And speaking of airstrikes, if they have airstrikes available, defined by the scenario, can generate a single airstrike against a target within 3 hexes of a spotting in a line of sight of a unit of the activated formation. Player rolls a d10 on the airstrike generation, determine the kind, then places the appropriate airstrike marker on the hex. So here we go. Looks like it's just a straight roll. So if NATO's calling in an airstrike, a 6 would get me an F-16 versus an A-10. And we can look at the units here. Yep, there we go. Here's an A-10, and notice there's no range. They can be fired at. 9 with the cannon, 12 with, I don't know, Maverick. Meanwhile, yeah, this is all the F-16 has, a 9 also. Okay, and they can both do HE. And that would just be for the hex. So in theory, this would be a 9, well, that's an 8 with modifiers. Probably get a hit, or a 12 minus 1 here. Or 6 against the defensive value of the hex. Okay. So that's an airstrike, and that's an action. Active player announces kind of attack, AP, ATGM, or HE. Inactive player then performs AA fire if able. So they get to fire first. So this has got a defensive 3. This has got a 4. Looks like you got to roll a 1 or a 0. That wouldn't have done it, yeah. AA fire against an airstrike is always performed as reaction fire. AA fire against helicopters can be performed as reaction fire when they move, or regular fire, because it looks like, yeah, these are fast movers. Oh, they're gone, so the only way you're going to get a fast mover is with that. AA fire against an airstrike performing an ATGM attack suffers from a -3 penalty, probably because they're keeping their distance, where if they do a regular cannon attack, they're coming in right on top of the target. That's good to know. Blocked only of 2 hexes. Again, same rule as this. So this guy potentially, yeah, he could fire here, even though there's 1 hex of blocking terrain. Helicopters suffer losses and disruption as ground units. Disrupted helicopters placed back in their formation. 1 or more hits on an airstrike aborts it. A disruption does not abort it, but it does get a disruption marker on it, and it will have normal disruption penalties. 2 disruptions will cause an airstrike to go away. Stinger missiles, they are yeah, I got one right here. They're 5.5. And looks like they're expended. Only as reaction fire against airstrikes or helicopters. An eligible unit is a unit that has the airstrike marker or active helicopter in line of sight and within Stinger range. Once fired, flip to its out of SAM side and put back on the formation box. As part of rally and resupply order issued, we can resupply. Okay. Cool. Hey, we're almost there. Recovery and cleanup phase. What happens during rest and resupply? Artillery are back to unfired. Helicopter units are automatically resupplied. Finished markers for the headquarters are removed. Engagement markers are removed. That's good too. Then we got command recovery. Move the command marker number of spaces to the left based on the effectiveness rating. We talked about that. Reduce that number. Reconstitutions. Place previously eliminated HQs on the map that are due this turn within the command range of the superior HQ. Units in the reorg box can also be reorged and redeployed. During day turns, they can be combined. During night turns, they can also be refitted. Recombining is performed before refit. Recombined or refitted units are placed on the map in a hex within the command range of their formation HQ, not adjacent to enemy units. If two units of the same type and the values are in the reorg box of the same formation, one can be returned to the map on its reduced side while the other is removed from play permanently. Can attempt to refit. Roll a d10. If the result is equal to or less the effectiveness rating of the formation, unit is refit, placed onto the map on its reduced white striped side. And if it's higher, it just waits. So you're going to lose your combat units if you recombine and put them on, or you could go for doing a refit. Remove smoke markers. Rally disrupted units to undisrupted if not adjacent to enemy. Disrupted units adjacent to enemy units or in cam or fast cam do not rally, and then advance the turn marker. And then they have night turns, +1 additional shift, -1 against all non-adjacent targets. Formations receive an additional 1-point reduction on the command track. Well, that's a positive. Soviet ranges are reduced by 1 at night, but not less than 1. But the U.S. owns the night, I guess. All right, we made it. We made it through the rules. We've done some examples. This gives you an idea. I'm definitely going to be playing this through to put it through its paces. Seems like there's a lot to chew on in here, and that's good. I'll be doing the first one. And if we look here, they define entry hexes. Oh, I didn't put this in. 5 Cobra counters per tank regiment in all scenarios. So I'm going to have to load those up. Chem, to the advantage of Soviet player in scenarios 2 and 4, I'm not playing. And that's the 10th, so I do get the Cobras. I'll go back and do that later. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to get 5 of those, and I'll probably put those on the formation chart. So let's see, this one, Cold War Nightmares. This is the one I'm going to do, and they say it's the intro. NATO taken by surprise. Wave of strike aircraft dropping bombs on 11th ACR barracks in Fulda. Scrambling to reach general defensive. Communications spotty. Traffic jams. Only advanced elements of the division are actually moving. Hence, you've got your forward security element and only 6 units. And we got 2 units of the 111th within 2 hexes of the inner German border. And I kind of moved this around yet, but when I look at this, the Soviets can set up, let me hide the pieces. You'll see this later too. Oh, I don't have a hide pieces button. I'll have to do that later. But they can, says they can set up within 1 hex of here or 1 hex of here, all the units, which makes sense since the FSE only has a range of 1 for command. So the U.S. sets up first, so they have to guard both avenues. Hence, that's why I put this guy here, 1, 2 hexes, but he's in a village. And again, no zones of control, so his fire is what stops it. And then I put the other guy initially here. Let's get these out of here. Well, they ain't even part of this game yet. Yeah, here's the only starting unit so far here. I'll have to figure out where he goes. Don't need him. Be nice to have all these units, but let's get rid of this. So the starting Soviet forces, I think my setup was something like this. What do I have here? Yeah, I think that guy was on map. I'll have to look. This guy isn't here. And this guy's going to be on the chart. And I think I add him here just to push the border. I don't know. I mean, here's a hex. I mean, within one hex of here. Does that mean they can be on the border hex? Not quite sure. Either way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, and that's all the FSE can handle. This guy isn't here. So at this point, it's this guy versus these guys. They'll get one activation. He can probably get a reaction fire in. Maybe another one activation, move. He'll do his reaction fires. He's going to be out of command, so I think his only command will be move, run, or hold the river. Guard the bridges. There's some ideas here. What are you going to do? So anyway, victory conditions. Let's go ahead and go through here real quick, and then we'll stop. Save all that for the next. You do see reinforcements come in. All 11th ACR helicopters, 5 of them are rolled out, and you roll a die for each 0 to 4. They've been eliminated in the airstrikes, and the survivors are placed on direct support. So we can call in the helos. We're going to need those. That's 0900. That's the second turn. Then 2 turns later, I think 3rd of the 8th shows up, and we get a battery of artillery in direct support. And then 1800, 3rd of the 8th, C Company and D Company of 5 of the 18th. Soviet player, you see the units already on board. And then on 0900, the rest of the 211th Tank Regiment arrives. And it does have the 1st Battalion 336 Helicopter Regiment and 2 batteries from the 1st Battalion 172 Artillery. All are in march mode. 1200 now, an airstrike is available. Some more artillery. 1500. On a roll of 0 to 2, a portion of the 17th Guards Tank Regiment enters the map. 1800. And that many additional 17th Guards Tank Regiment. No airstrikes for NATO. Soviet airstrikes starting at 12. We see the forward security element here. Inter-German border. Got to pay the cost. The marker is still there. And Soviet player automatically has the initiative on turn 1 and adds +3 to afterwards. He always adds +3. So it's a good chance Soviets will maintain initiative. And the Soviet player wins if either occupies or is the last pass through every hex of Fulda and can trace an uninterrupted line of road hexes off the board through an entry hex that is not occupied by a U.S. or adjacent to a U.S. unit. So captures Fulda completely, or occupies at least 1 hex of Fulda defined above and exits at least 6 units from any road exiting the east edge of the board before the end of the game. Must be able to trace, again, uninterrupted road hexes. Any other result is a U.S. victory. So there's the end of the board. So it boils down to either take all of Fulda or take a hex of Fulda and get 6 units off the board, all the while maintaining an uninterrupted line of roads back here. So that's the game. All right, we're at a healthy 1 hour 38 minutes. Hopefully that gave you an overview of the rules. It was good for me. It sorted out some more things, but in the end, only playing it will really show you. But this will be highly fluid. Again, no zones of controls, no continuous line. And then, of course, this concept of your command track, the snafus, multiple actions, artillery support. I mean, there's a lot here to chew on and kind of understand. So I think the only thing saving the U.S. is these units. I guess they could go in march mode and just run. We'll see. There's different things here. I've committed to coming down here. I guess I could play through it again and do here. Yeah, I mean, it's a two-edged sword. By coming down here, I don't see the defending U.S. unit. If I started up here, I would potentially see this, but I can't. 1, 2, 3. I can't get close enough to bring artillery down on this unit right away. But by the same token, I could lay smoke. That looked doable. And maybe that's something to do down here. Lay smoke first and then go for it. Yeah, if I lay smoke first, then we can literally move right in here and we've got the -4 and we attack out of smoke. But these may react just by running. And what I'm really interested in is getting the bridge. So maybe lay smoke to seal this guy off and then go for the bridge. These roads don't matter. It doesn't matter what kind. So maybe that's a different way to do it. Okay, anyway, I've gone way long here. If you've listened this far, thank you for your patience. Um, Looking forward to playing through this scenario and then see what else it brings too. So, again, thanks for listening. Comments appreciated. Like and subscribe so you know when I actually start post the next video and actually start putting the game through its paces. So, see you at that recording. Thanks for listening.